dude. Check the news. It doesn't matter what channel.
Welcome back to the FrieNDA, the only YouTube channel that both really hates making money and wants a lot of money, because I really want an R32 Skyline and a bunch of other cars. Berserk statue that runs like $1,200. That'd be cool. For those of you that don't know, my name is Adrian, and for the last 6 years, I've been making video games professionally within the AAA and AA space. It's been both a blessing and a curse. But for the first 2 years of my career, I worked on this very small indie franchise known as Call of Duty, specifically Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The one from 2019, not the other one, the original one. Specifically, I was a QA tester for those 2 years, and this was my experience working on a Call of Duty game, or games, plural. To start off with, I dropped out of college around my third-ish year because I got the opportunity to be the QA tester at Treyarch for Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
Also, I really hated being in school.
And to make it very clear, I grew up playing these games, and a couple of them are my favorite moments in gaming history. The nuke from COD 4 section, specifically in Modern Warfare 2, where you have to like fight in the capital, where you're like shooting all these different all the Russian invasions around the monuments and stuff. That sequence stays in my head. You're kind of like storming the capital. Not like that. Call of Duty Black Ops 1, where like the interrogation, and it's like, oh, the unreliable narrator, you're trying to do all these things, and it just leads to a really good plot twist near the end. Hell, even just World at War's entire campaign is really gut-wrenchingly brutal for a World War II game, and I think that's why COD World War II didn't do so well, because you had World at War, which was extremely brutal, and then World War II and Vanguard, which are very cinematic, like Hollywoody. And not even to mention the countless hours spending on zombies in multiplayer, because those COD lobbies were insane. And before we get too into the nitty-gritty of what exactly my day-to-day was, I'm gonna do a quick overview of what QA actually is. Because more often than not, whenever I talk to people about being a QA tester, a lot of people just assume that you're just, well, playing games, and just, that's all you do, you just play test. And that's not necessarily the case, and it's never really been, except for those days where you just play test because you need to check stability in a build. But quality assurance, or QA, is often one of the most underappreciated sections of the game development pipeline. It's their job not to only know the entire game inside and out in order to know what's correct and how to break it, but keep coming up with new test cases and situations to make sure the game is as stable as it can be. So like one day you could be running through a new version of Blackout and then trying to test and just playing with the whole studio, hitting a fucking no scope on Vandahar in the middle of the day. And other days you're gonna be running through testing barracks. You're gonna do making sure all the UI pops up when you unlock something. The visual cues are working. You're gonna make sure scripted sequences are working as intended. You're gonna make sure lot sequences fold in properly. This is like your entire mindset where you're going. You need to know the product inside and out, even better than the people that are fully developing it, because they're so focused on actually making it. And sometimes it's not even just the redundant bugs. Like you can even find really fun ones, like let's say putting a truck inside an elevator and causing it to flip to the skybox in order to make it stick, and then you can jump out and just snipe people from the top of the Blackout map and never die. It takes a lot of brain power, and especially finding ways to clearly communicate how you got to that point, how you were able to fully recreate the bug, and making sure you assign it to the different departments is crucial to the production pipeline. Because a lot of the times developers do have chance to test their product, but other times they just don't. They just have to keep going, and maybe they miss something, or they accidentally check something in, and all that good stuff. So it's us to kind of like be the final wall in order to do it. But we don't have control in necessarily when the bugs get fixed. It's just more how quickly we can report them and how we can move on. Hell, even now that I've moved away from QA, I would always reach out to whatever QA tester is working on my level, and just to see like if there's anything in particular I miss, or it's like if something doesn't feel right because, well, I don't have time to play it. I have to make a rock again. I have to make 5 rocks, bro. Speaking of which, a lot of my day-to-day was relatively straightforward. Show up to the office at 10, work until 6, pull the day's build, run through all 14 maps, 15 if you include Nuketown, and each of the modes. And of course, each of the game modes, specifically multiplayer, like Deathmatch, Demolition. By the way, where the fuck is Demolition? I haven't seen that game mode since, well, Black Ops 4? Was it? I wonder if it was in W2. I didn't really play that one. Along with loading Blackout and doing a full map sleep, on occasion doing playtests like I mentioned before, then checking every barrack, every achievement, every gun, every combination of gun specialist attachment with the camo, with the pick 10 system, so you have to keep adding everything else on there, including the operator mods too. And then along with the different attachments with the operator mod as well, I think a couple of them would break and like completely change the outlook of the gun as well. But you know what I'm getting at here. There was a lot of content going into these games. Despite whatever you may see, there was still a lot of content. And this isn't even mentioning all the other, all the different localizations like Chinese, French, Spanish, Japanese, Korean. You had all these other languages that you needed to check. And quite frankly, I got pretty decent at reading French and Chinese by the end of my run there. It's a lot. It's a lot of content. This isn't even to mention like the UI bugs, making sure it translated properly, which we wouldn't really know. You're not like qualified to know the language, but you can kind of tell when it's French or Chinese and then English. And I know a couple of people are gonna ask, well, what about zombies? Who handled zombies? Well, there were testers that did it, but they were kind of in a secret room because people would leak shit, or at least previously leaked a bunch of shit. And zombies is Treyarch's baby, and I'm not gonna touch that because I don't really know a lot about what into that side, and they scare me. And if anything, I'm not touching that one. So Godspeed. Sorry, zombies community. You're also being left out of this video too. Oh, Rob. I hope Milo doesn't shoot me. Please don't shoot me, Milo. We really wanted less leaks than the Titanic, eh? Get it? Like Voyage 9. Ha! So what do you do when you have $1 billion IP, a lot of content, and a deadline coming up really fast? Because remember, so for clarification, I started in around April of 2018, and the game was scheduled to come out in October. So here are your options. 1. Reduce the scope of the project in order to maintain a healthy existence. 2. Delay a month or so to set up a solid release and make sure everything is somewhat stable and everyone has a work-life balance. Or C. We're crunching you to shit. It's that one. We're crunching. There were 2 shifts during the lead up to the release of Black Ops 4. A day shift and a night shift. The day shift was 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the night shift was 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. That's the shift I was on. I basically lived like a vampire for almost a year. I'd love to go into more details specifically of like what happened, but most of it was just the examples of testing I mentioned before. And a lot of it became a blur just because I was only focused on making sure I didn't crash in my car to get to the office and work and not lose my job. I do remember that my Starbucks order was like a venti mocha with 2 extra shots, and I think a venti mocha already has like 2 shots, so it was about 4 to 5 shots of espresso a day. I would remember like we would hit a 3 to 4 a.m. brain rot, and one of my coworkers would just go, A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. A, B, C. I just remembered, I think it was like a month out, one of my coworkers, who's a very, I consider a very close friend of mine, he would start singing that SpongeBob song where like Sandy was like, I want to go home, whoa, whoa. It was really that, like, when you're like playing with your friends and they just go, oh, one more game, and you're like on a 7-game loss streak and you just keep going and going. So you start singing shit to make your life like some fucking dopamine based serotonin or whatever the fuck brain does. It's like it just kept going. So we and then we all got like really sick of pizza. You ever have like fucking, oh my god, they would provide food, don't get me wrong, like they would provide food for us, and like they made it somewhat bearable while we were there. You ever have like 6 a.m. fat burger? God, that felt so bad. 6 a.m. okay, hold on, disclaimer, 6 a.m. fat burger sober feels really bad. And we all got like really sick of pizza too. Also fell in love with those like cinnamon sugar Pop-Tarts. Those are so good. Those are delicious. I also remember like one test case where like I had to level up an account all the way to max on Blackout because like they had the ranking system and whatnot, but I would hit the max rank and then one time it crashed, so I had to do it 3 more times. I think it was, but oh my god, it was like 4 or 5 days of just killing bots and shit. But mental health was not a priority during this time. And physical health, I think my eyes took major damage during that whole time and just felt sick a lot. Days eventually turned into weeks and turned into months, and then the blur came, and then all of a sudden I just saw boxes come in of all the collector's editions, like it had like the mystery box. I have it behind me with all my stuff, and it's like, oh, launch day's coming out in like 2 weeks, like a week or two, right? And I was expecting something really cool and like, oh hey, maybe we don't need to work night shift the day before and that day, so that way we can celebrate with the team and be like, yeah, we did it. That didn't happen, unfortunately, so shut up to the office just for another shift. It was just exhaustion. The like weird heat of PS4s and Xboxes and PCs all filled our little room because for some reason the air conditioning would turn off, and so it would get really hot around like 3 or 4. It wasn't bad, but it was just warm. And then I looked over and I saw on Twitch, it's like people started playing the game because, oh, it may be like 1 or 2 a.m. in LA, but New Zealand and Australia are just waking up and the game is out for them. I'm gonna be honest, that was such an amazing high that I can never really describe. Watching people play and enjoy the thing you've slaved over for so long gives you like the biggest dopamine and serotonin high you could ever feel, and you become addicted to it in a way. So after launch, I expected things to slow down, but I forgot it's a Call of Duty game, and you're always going to be pushing new content. We have new maps, new guns, new specialists. You have the new zombies maps coming out. You have a bunch of expansions constantly going through. So you're never really going to slow down until 8-ish months after launch, if that, because there's going to be a new Call of Duty coming out the next year. So you just have to hold over the endless eating cycle of people. And this isn't even counting the blackout modes, the multiplayer modes. It's just a constant drip of content. But after launch, I started to like regain a lot of my sanity. They eventually moved us back to a later shift. They had people show up at 10 to work to 6, and then move us from like 2 p.m. to like 10. So like we would still hit the 8 hours mark, but it would be different, and then we can actually see people and enjoy our lives again a little bit. And during this time, I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do in more game dev spaces. Do I want to stay in production? Spoiler, I didn't. But I wanted to move towards environment art stuff. So I reached out to like the art manager and the lead to be like, hey, if I wanted to do this, where would I be able to learn? Like, who would I reach out to? And luckily the team was very nice during this time, kind of helped me get the ball rolling, knowing what I needed to focus on and get better, what I needed, and how to upgrade my art and just overall make it better to fit the quality of whatever I needed down the line. So they even had me test some art assets and just keep trying to understand the collision of and how to build out kits and how to build everything out, which is kind of funny because I'm like juggling two things at once. It's like, oh, I want to do this, but I still have my job to do. So you're doing two jobs at once, but passion, more energy, whatever. Then something weird happened. We stopped doing overtime as a whole. So like it was fully, like it was just done. Like on occasion we would have 12-hour shifts and all that stuff, but no, it was done, which was really cool. We all kind of moved back to 12 to 8, 10 to 6, and it was a great time. But the reality of the situation came in financially. In Los Angeles, let alone Southern California, I was making about $13.50 an hour, which is the minimum wage, I believe. And it's not very sustainable in a $1,500 a month apartment, along with a bunch of gas needed to get over to the studio. You also need like food, water, electricity, all that stuff. It started to really eat at my savings, and they were bleeding really quickly. And it's like, oh, you're reckless spending. No, I most of my time was working or sleeping. I didn't have time to spend money on anything, and I was doing laundry at my grandparents' house too. So it's like, it's not anything like that. It's just the cost of living was so, and it's still even higher now. It just fucking sucked. So I remember like a couple days out of the week, I would literally sit in the chair working and trying to figure out what the fuck to do. Like I was thinking of going back to the kitchen and like doing a second job and finding a way just to do it part-time or something. But I was hearing some rumblings of my coworkers talking about leaving the studio and going up to Infinity Ward, who just really started ramping up production and finalizing everything for Modern Warfare 2019. And they were doing like OT and all that good stuff. So I was thinking of joining them, but I was already kind of established and I felt comfortable at Treyarch. I was learning art, I was doing all this stuff. And even for a bigger matter, if you know Los Angeles, I lived all the way down here. Infinity Ward was all the way over here, and Treyarch was right here. That would add an extra like hour to my commute with traffic. And if you know Los Angeles, there's always traffic unless you drive in the morning. It's still dark in the morning. So I had to sit back, think it over, and I did it. So I reached out to the lead QA manager, who was also the hiring manager for the position, and it was an almost immediate yes, just due to one, how much more content in Modern Warfare had, and also the fact that I launched the title. I understood the COD engine and what was needed to go into each situation. It was just really simple to go and help out the team. And the cool thing was too, he said I'd be a senior. Keep this in mind, because it causes a little bit more of a shitstorm later. Modern Warfare not only had the multiplayer and a battle royale coming down the line, but it had a full single player campaign and a co-op mode, which expanded and was gigantic. Remember Spec Ops, before they replaced it with all the raid missions, but Spec Ops was gigantic. And even not even to mention Gunsmith, the whole new engine. Like, it was essentially going from one furnace into another furnace. The guy told me, hey, no way you would crunch more than 60 hours a week, right? That was a only were we on average working about 12 hours a day, but we would move up to around 15 to 18 certain times, and not even to mention weekends. and it wasn't great. It was a blur. The blur was back, and I couldn't really see my partner for almost a year again after just getting married. That fucking sucks. Can't see my wife. That's cool, but at least we can make rent, right? All this for an extra $15.50 an hour and getting taxed for almost a whole fucking third of it just because most of it was due to unchecked OT and double time. We pushed hard for that sucker to be done as the best it could ever be, and I quite frankly think it was one of the better ones that came out. The campaign and multiplayer overall experience that came out was a huge high. Warzone is still kicking, even though I think Warzone 1 is dead. I think now it's like Warzone 2 or 3 now. It was just a blurry, manic energy that kind of took over my brain during that time. I've just started using gamer subs to the point where like they gave me free stuff because I kept tweeting about it during development, and I appreciate them a lot. That saved me a good amount of money and a lot of my sanity. It's even cool too. I got to improve my art with Warzone, was able to help out there as well, which was awesome. Like, as soon as it launched, we were actually able to have a party and celebrate with the team, and I felt I was able to get the closure I needed on that I thought I would get with Treyarch. So I did this time, which was great. I felt fantastic. It was definitely one of the most times of my life, if that makes sense. It just fucking happened, and so it goes, I suppose. And a little after launch, of course, because something always has to happen. So the lead, or my former lead, the guy that hired me after launch, for whom will remain anonymous, but for the developers watching, his name rhymed with pot, was fired due to poor management, over hiring significantly, hiring people that legit were just there, and then people he knew, even hiring one of his friends, paying double the salary of full-on leads and seniors, and basically did nothing except like work an hour and then leave, but would still get the full 60-hour salary. So we forged time signatures there too. Or time cards, sorry. Later learned that even though he gave people the titles of senior, they weren't seniors, so that's what I got, and there was a lot of miscommunication amongst the QA team as a whole that caused this weird divide, and I apologize to anyone that thought I was trying to pretend to be a senior. That's what I was told when I was hired, and I just went with it. And this was like a huge morale drop, not for just me, but as a team as a whole, especially when we had to have a full-on meeting in the office above and explain what was going on, and it just sucked. And then to top it all off, one of the memories that I really hold near and dear, one day the contract because we're all contract workers, and so you kind of go through another company to get loaned out to Infinity Ward. So you're not like an employee of Infinity Ward. There's a couple people that are considered full-time, so that's the contract system is a whole other conversation that needs to happen. But the contract representative was walking through the studio and just was like kind of hand-picking people, and it's like, hey, can we have a quick chat in the other room and something? And then we noticed they wouldn't be there. So like it would just be like, can I talk to you? Gone. Can I talk? So they were like letting people go in this weird like firing squad executioner situation, and then no one got work done. So we were all just watching and waiting. Even people like hunkering down with Nerf guns to be like, hey, get me out of here. Like you can't get me. I'm in my corner. It felt bad, man. It's just like watching all these people you worked for months on end with, like spent months just working your ass off with, slowly get let go and like taken away and just gone. It felt terrible. That was one of the most stressful things I've ever felt in my life. We've all eventually joked to the point where we took a bunch of pictures and put them on a wall as like an in memorial. Then eventually, I think it was around March of 2020 or February 2020, one of those two. My contract came up and I didn't want to resign I was so tired. I just wanted a little time for myself, I think, because I was like, oh, I'll take a couple of weeks off. I've made enough in savings so I can like have a couple of weeks of break. My wife got a job too, so we were okay. She was making more than me baseline too, which was really funny. The whole world shut down 2 weeks later, so I got an extra little bit of time to kind of figure stuff out, but I bounced on my feet later and it was okay. One of the weird things about QA as a whole is that you learn so much about yourself, about being a developer, and you develop this like deep camaraderie with people because you spend so much time with people. And that's one of the beautiful things that I want to say in retrospective, because there were a lot of negatives in my experience that happened while I was working there. But some of my closest friends and even people I still talk to on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, were my former coworkers, and I still hold their, and a lot of them went on to go do a lot of cool stuff, like eventually go full into art, go full into production, go into like the mocap studios. I loved working on those games, but just looking back on it was very hard because it was a very tough experience, and you definitely know that you're being overworked and exploited. And I know this isn't a uncommon experience for Call of Duty developers. It's why the first couple of videos on my channel are talking about Modern Warfare 3. I know that those devs loved the game. They wanted to make something great, but the production, the focus on just product drove them into a wall, and they weren't able to get exactly what they wanted. What I've been able to do during those 2 years and my 6 years now is a privilege. It is a very insane privilege. It's not working in a kitchen. It's not hard labor. It's basic fucking, like, I sit in front of a computer all day. I understand that. I'm very, 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 very fucking aware of the night and day. But this is just the conversation I wanted to have and bring up as a perspective on these developers, you know? It's like, we want to do these things, but usually the really big, powerful people don't allow us to. We don't have the healthy work thing. It's getting better, quite frankly, even though Microsoft has been doing terrible things, laying off and closing studios that didn't need to be closed. I'm hoping that, at least out of everything, the COD experience and the studio culture as a whole will shift to be better with these new products and all this cool stuff. But I don't know. Oh my god, wait, hold on. I not to circle back too far, but I remember one time the Woodland Hills, the city, was on fire. Like, there was a bunch of fires. California is known for wildfires and stuff. I had to work in office while there was a wildfire going on, and I had to wear a mask the whole time. I just remember that. Fuck, that was, why'd they make me work? I'm a fucking game developer. Leave me alone. Let me be a fucking nerd. I think the last thing I could say is thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. To all my former Call of Duty homies and my Call of Duty coworkers, and even to the developers that are taking over the franchise now. Try not to take everything too hard. Understand that it'll get better. Understand that a lot of people just don't know how brutal it is to work on like $1 billion IP just because you don't get any money of it. I know some people get bonuses once you're full-time, but if you're a contract worker, you don't really get much. I had to pay for my own parking one time just so I can make sure I got into work on time, while I saw a bunch of producers roll up in brand new Teslas and shit. And if you can't laugh at that, I'm gonna be honest, like, maybe sometimes that company isn't for you. And that's alright. It's not alright, but I don't know what more to do. Anyway, okay. Thank you for listening. I'm just rambling at this point. I hope you all take care of yourself. Know your worth. Get some sleep. Stay hydrated. Like and subscribe. I probably should do that more. I do want to do some better I've had a couple of ideas for new content coming down the way. This will probably be my last video essay for a hot minute until I find a topic worth discussing, just because I'm getting I want to do something different and do something a little more fun and more informative. That's all I got. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening again. It means the most. And also, if you made it this far into the video, thank you again. And if you want to learn more about like some of the horror stories and very specific situations, there is an article I'm going to link down below specifically written about Black Ops 4. And it covers a lot of things that I missed just because I forgot it happened. Or rather, I just couldn't find a way to format it into the video properly. And if you want to take the time to read that, please do. If not, it doesn't matter to me. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.
Get it almost night when that moon gets big and bright and supernatural delight. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Everybody is outside. They don't walk, they don't fight, they keep things loose and inside. Everybody dancing in the moonlight, dancing in the moonlight. Everybody feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
That was amazing. I just got goose pimples from watching that.